All right, pros and cons to the 2022 BMW X3. Let's get started. If you want to see my full driving impressions, then check out the full review that I did where you see me actually drive the car and you can get my thoughts there. But this is meant to serve as a quick buyer's guide for people in the buying market. The first pro is going to be the price and also the kind of warranty slash maintenance programs associated with BMW products. Typically, I've noticed BMWs are a little bit more affordable in the German luxury car category. The way you see this vehicle here, it's about $47,000. It is the sDrive, so it doesn't have the all-wheel drive, it's rear-wheel drive. And you can add xDrive for an extra $2,000. I would actually recommend most people to do that because that will make the vehicle a little bit more desirable when you go to sell it. But as it sits here, you're getting a lot of value for your money. And BMWs tend to lease out a little bit better as well. We have here like a 4-year, 50,000 mile warranty and 3 years of free maintenance as well. And another pro is going to be this drivetrain, okay? The engine and this 8-speed transmission. The 8-speed is pretty much perfect in all the BMWs. It reacts so quick, so well. And this 4-cylinder, both BMW and Audi have the smoothest 4-cylinders in the market for sure. And they also pull pretty well, both in the city and the highway. The thing with most turbocharged 4-cylinders is they lose steam out on the highway. This is not like that. This still keeps pulling. Like if you're doing 70 miles an hour and you want to pass somebody, just put your foot into it and it'll just effortlessly get up and go. Not an issue. On paper, it doesn't seem amazing at about 248 horsepower and 258 pounds-feet of torque. But in the real world, trust me, it is a great experience. Now, one of the cons is the seating position can be a bit strange for certain individuals. Like these mirrors aren't super large. They're kind of weird the way they are placed. So that can take a little bit of getting used to. And also the steering position, it might not be ideal for certain people. Like you might not be able to see the temperature and the time and what gear you're in and what mode you're in. You might not be able to see that depending on how you sit. Like I sit pretty low in all my vehicles. I'm 5'11", and with the steering placed in a pretty good position for me, I can't really see those things I just mentioned. But again, that's subjective. That can change between person to person. Another pro is the way it handles. I really like its neutral chassis and the way it behaves. This is the rear-wheel drive trim. This particular vehicle is rear-wheel drive, as I already stated, and this handles a lot better than you would expect. You can really push this thing through the corners, and really I think this car is only bested by like a Porsche Macan. We have the 19-inch wheels here, wrapped in 245 wide Pirelli kind of run flat tires, and they ride great. And it's not that loud in here either. It doesn't produce a whole lot of tire noise or anything like that. Now, one slight con is when you're up in the highway, you can get a little bit of that wind buffeting effect. However, it's really not bad. For like around a $47,000 car, it's not bad. It's actually a pretty quiet cabin in here for the most part. Anything under like 80 mile per hour driving, this is going to be great for you. And speaking of the highway, the other con I've noticed is when you get up to like 100 plus miles an hour, it can be swayed around by the wind a little bit more, I suppose. But granted, that was a very windy day that I was driving in. And for the most part, it's still very planted. It's not bad at all, but it's just something to note. Steering for me is a very big pro because for 2022, I feel like they have really updated the overall feeling and the sensation of this car. This has a lot more character and much better steering feel than the 2020 X3 that I checked out. So keep that in mind. Manufacturers will make updates and not really disclose them. So you might think you're buying like the same car from 2020 or whatever with slightly modified, exterior looks, like with the grille, the headlights, the taillights, the rear bumper. These are the subtle changes that they made for 2022, but in actuality, I feel like they've done a lot more. The steering finally feels much more precise. It has the correct weighting to it. It's not overweighted, and it's not super light and sloppy like it is in the X5. And the X5 is a vehicle that I'm going to be mentioning here in a little bit. So it feels accurate, it feels tight, and the overall car just has a confidence-inspiring demeanor to it. Now let's transition over into the interior and let's talk about that. One of the cons is in harsh sunlight, the gauge cluster, it kind of has like this glare to it. It's a little bit difficult to read the gauges here in harsh sunlight, but the infotainment is not affected by that. Something to keep in mind. Overall, this interior, one of the biggest pros about it is it's very solid in here. The sound system sounds decent. You have plenty of bass. The clarity is good. So not a bad sound system. One con for some people could be like these glossy finishes here for the center stack, you have this piano black plastic, and we also have this glossy wood trimming. Fortunately, it's not attracting a crazy amount of dust or fingerprints or anything like that. It actually remains pretty clean, but I get it. A lot of people hate this material. Other pros, you have plenty of space in here. I'm 5'11" and I have a lot of headroom here, so you can be much taller and still be able to fit. And regarding the rear seats, this is where I'm going to mention the X5 because there's no real incentive to buy the X5. In my opinion, the X3 is the way to go. You're saving about 20 grand, and this drives better, it handles better, the steering is better, and also the rear seats, it's about the same in both vehicles for the X3 and the X5. Neither vehicle is super plentiful, and also one of the things I really hate about BMWs, if you're sitting in the back seat of them, they always have like this, in most vehicles, especially their SUVs, they always have like this black plastic cladding behind the front seats. So if you're an adult and you're sitting back there, it's going to dig into your shins. So that's a little uncomfortable, but you also have your HVAC and your climate control back there, which helps. It's a nice touch. And we also have two USB-C ports back there. You have a subtle mood lighting going across the vehicle. I think a lot of people will like that. And regarding the trunk space, it's excellent. Plenty of space. You can also fold down these seats 60-40 in the back, so you have more than enough space. Good features in here for the price. You know, you have the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. We also have the heated seats here, and you can also upgrade the infotainment to a 12.3-inch screen if you want. The backup camera is crisp. You have parking sensors, which is helpful, but not a 360 camera. Automatic headlights and one-touch auto windows for all four windows. I also like the metal buttons all throughout the interior here. This kind of silver buttons. They feel great. It's a nice thing to interact with. And the seat comfort in here is excellent. That's another pro. Because even though it's a Sensatec seats, these seats are far more comfortable than the X5 seats, believe it or not. I don't know why. Both of these seats are the Sensatecs, and this feels much better. We also have the optional 4-way lumbar support, which you get with the convenience package. So that really helps your lower back on longer trips. So I was not fatigued at all doing long journeys in this X3. But both the BMW and the Audis, with their 4-cylinder turbos anyway, you get fantastic real-world fuel economy. This is rated to get about 23 in the city and 29 on the highway. You could beat that. You could get about maybe even 31 on the highway. Something to keep in mind. But you will have to use premium fuel. And I forgot to mention, this could be a con to some of you, or it could be a pro. You know, it is a BMW, the ultimate driving machine, right? The way you sit in this vehicle, this does not feel like you're driving an SUV at all. It feels like you're just in a car, honestly. So you don't have like that sensation that you're sitting up high and you can see over everything. That's not what this feels like. It just feels like a everyday vehicle, like a regular sedan or something. So some of you might like that, some of you might hate that. So it's not the traditional kind of SUV experience. This is kind of like a 3 Series wagon almost, but that helps with the handling. So there you go. Yeah, overall though, I think it's a great value package. I mean, it's 20 grand cheaper than a similarly equipped X5. It drives so much better. The steering is better. It's almost the same amount of space. The X5, you know, is a little bit taller, so you can put slightly taller objects back there. But for the most part, this is more than enough for most families. Great features, provides a excellent ride quality, driving confidence, all that good stuff. So it's definitely the vehicle to consider in the BMW lineup. If you want a smaller SUV, you can also kind of fit this in garage spaces more easily than something like the larger X5s. It's just an easier vehicle to live with as a whole. And most importantly, it's about 20 grand cheaper than an X5. And it's really between this and the Audi Q5 for me. These are the two vehicles to really kind of put on your short list. And I mean, really, you should also be considering the Lexus NX, the Acura RDX, and the MDX. You know, all of these are excellent vehicles, but I get it. You're shopping for this, you really want a German car. Between the GLC, the Q5, and the X3, the Q5 and the BMW offer the best 4-cylinder and the highest quality interior. So I'm going to leave it at that. Hopefully you found value with this video. Thanks again for watching. Take care and goodbye.